What if I told you there's a person out there that's just as amazing as you? Someone who works hard, laughs, cries just like you and has their own perspective of the world. Maybe I'm talking about a world-class philanthropist. No, I'm simply talking about a content creator. Rex Tiger creates gaming content with his own twist, just being himself. Catch his live streams on YouTube where he posts weekly content. He gets even more creative with edits to enhance the experience. His content is also on TikTok and Twitter. When Rex Tiger goes live, you don't want to miss out. Stop by, say hello, and come back anytime. He's always around.
Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing the Love in Translation episodes. So again, we're going to be doing all of them in this one episode. I believe we're going to have 4 different episodes that we're going to be going through, and that's basically how we're doing this. But before we do, as promised, we're going to go through some hot goss before we hop into the episode. So, first piece, Selling Sunset. Mary Fitzgerald has been on kind of, as we know, a very crazy journey with her fertility over the last few years. We know that her and Romain have been trying to conceive, and we also know about the miscarriage that happened while she was on the previous season. Just recently, on March, what day? March, sometime in March, she revealed to Us Weekly that she is actually going to be undergoing uterine surgery. She says, quote, "I have had an MRI scan, a full body scan, and I have to have surgery on my uterus on top of the, I think she had another miscarriage. In this case, it was a septic miscarriage, which I don't know much about, which basically we're going to, for those who don't know what that is, we'll talk about it very briefly. So because of this, she has to undergo some surgery. She says that, obviously her path to pregnancy has been complicated. She says it's going to be an interesting process. It's not going to be as easy as we thought it would be. So if you're not clear what a septic miscarriage is, per the Mayo Clinic, pregnancy tissue left in the uterus after a miscarriage can sometimes result in a uterine infection, otherwise known as a septic miscarriage. The condition can cause chills, fever, and vaginal bleeding, among other symptoms, and in some cases requires surgery. So Fitzgerald, Mary, did not detail her symptoms or when her surgery is going to be, but she is okay and has accepted the setbacks that her and Romain now are facing. She says, quote, "I've had plenty of time to process, and in the beginning it wasn't easy. I guess the only reason why I've been silent for a long time and the reason why I'm speaking out now is because I do realize how common this is and how many people go through this." So, Romain has been seemingly amazing, and he says for his part, he told Us Weekly that growing their family would be great, but that he doesn't want to put any pressure on Mary. In spite of the lows they've experienced thus far, the couple remain in good spirits, and that's the most important part. So that's it for that piece. Let's move on to something a little more not so heavy, a little more fun. Below Deck. So I haven't really been talking much about Below Deck, obviously, with everything kind of going on, but I'm hoping I can at least jump in towards the end. What I will say is Anthony's falling apart. And Fraser needs to stop trying to get Barbie fired. And I've just recently watched Ben appoint the girl he's fucking as lead Decky. But Dylan, for some reason, is delulu and thinks that he was going to become lead Decky. Anyways, there's that. But we did just very recently have a very interesting charter. Some interesting charter guests. And that, if you don't know who I'm talking about, is Jill Zarin, who I didn't know was an original housewife. But because I'm not in that world. I'm just not. But yeah, let's get into that. So she's now coming for Below Deck and some of the people on Below Deck, in particular Fraser. So she says, quote, I went into it with the attitude that I want to make a good show. I was me. I literally was me. Damn. I was me the way I am in my real life. I didn't realize Jill Zarin is 60. She looks incredible. Anyway. And she said this on April 9th episode of the Juicy Scoop podcast. She says, after watching her scenes from season 11, Jill appeared to have no regrets, adding, quote, if I like my Diet Coke, then I want another. If I don't like it, then I will send it back. If I don't like my food, then I send it back. Most people do. Jesus, God. The former Real Housewives of New York star said St. David being a mega yacht meant she expected a higher level of service. She says, quote, it was a $45,000 for 2 nights. That's shit. You get on the boat at 12 and right away you get lunch. You get an explanation, which I actually taped on my phone that I'm going to post. I'm not sure she actually did, of Fraser explaining the layout of the next 2 days. Jill made her debut on Below Deck earlier this month, as we know, when she was a guest on a 2-day charter. Her demands, however, quickly became too much for the crew, as we all saw. Fraser said the demands made him feel as if Jill was crawling into his brain and eating away at his soul. In response, Jill claimed it was Fraser's fault that she and her friends weren't thrilled with their time on the yacht. She says, quote, in fact, one of the things he emphasized, which is ironic, is that there would be snacks and food all of the time everywhere. He did say that. He actually emphasized and completely didn't deliver. When I think about the trip, it was the head stew's job to make sure things went seamlessly, and I kind of blame him for the trip being a total disaster. Jill felt terrible for her fellow guests, adding, they spent an enormous amount of money and wanted to have an amazing experience. I did the show because my friends wanted to go on TV. I don't blame them. I didn't mind doing it with them because as long as I am me, I am good. Jill is shedding light into where she stands with Fraser after he didn't publicly defend her on the wake of the Below Deck debut. She says, quote, Fraser and I, and we kept in touch for a year. Interesting. But after that, I never want to talk to him. Not at all. Up until this week. Fraser even apologized and said, I feel bad about the pressure you're getting. You don't deserve it. You're a nice lady. You didn't do anything wrong. So I asked him if he would come out and say something, and he didn't. She made it clear that she has no plans to mend her friendship with Fraser, adding, I'm done. He doesn't want to listen. I tried to reach out with him on Instagram. He just said, I feel bad that you're getting a lot of hate and you don't deserve it. And I said, well, you can, say something. And he ignored it. She said, Barbie defended me. So did Kyle from Below Deck Med. He has nothing a part of this, but anyways, he came out and said what Jill asked for was not unreasonable. She was not being mean. She was not disrespectful. Let's see Kyle handle this, really and truly, because come on. Anyways, he said, in fact, quite the contrary. I keep saying how Captain Carey shouldn't be bothered with this, and the captain shouldn't be bothered with that. I said, how I feel so bad for them. We are so tired. How are they going to keep working tonight? I was so empathetic on past trips, is what Jill is saying. Jill explained that Fraser's response once the episode started airing is what took her by surprise, despite him saying on screen that he just hated Jill and not the other guests, which is true, he did. She said, I had a great time with Fraser. We laughed. We had a great time. I had a great time with Barbie. I think that they're making a good TV show. Sometimes they may overproduce themselves. After I got off the boat, I DM'd Fraser. I said, thank you so much for the most amazing time. We had the best time ever. Love and stay in touch. So, drama on the Bravo front. But that's it for that piece. We're going to do one final, and this is another update on the Gary and Teresa divorce. So, following the news of their now divorce, Maria Trice, who was one of the contestants who actually got eliminated on night 1, doesn't regret being eliminated in the first week. She says, quote, I think I dodged a bullet. I think she did too. And she says on April 14th, she said, quote, trying to force a shoe that doesn't fit, you're going to get corns on your toes. Maria continued, the interesting part about being at this stage and this age is people have stuff, even if they do their due diligence of finding out as much as they can about everyone. I think other stuff just comes up, men in particular. She added, I hope Teresa is happy. And she says that she's the sweetest. And she compared getting to know all about another person to a dance. I'm not sure what that means, but she's a boat. At first, everyone is showing their inner ambassador and batting their eyes. But when the covers come off and you see the real reality of who each other are, you're like, I'm not really sure this is who I want for the rest of my life. Maria was also adamant that Teresa would find love again, even though things didn't work out with Gary. I've had a lot of love in my life. Real love, she said. She can do it again, and she can do it better. The biggest love you can have is loving yourself, and that attracts all sorts of things. It's great. So, that is that for Hot Goss for this week. There is going to be more, but we're going to wait until the next episode. So, let's hop into the reason that we are here. Love in Translation, Season 1, Episode 10, Sayonara, Ladies. So, I'm not sure. I think we can probably get through this pretty quickly. So, Tripp is kind of relieved that Giselle left because it's all about Lady. Jennifer tells Yam Heidi was mad that, I guess, they had sex. And now she will hit on him more now. Okay. Tulai is not sure what she will do if Dylan chooses to pick Yam as well as her, because let's be real here, who else is he really going to be picking? Here comes Sangita, and Sarah's confident that she is not going to be leaving the house. Hold on to that. Back with Sangita, she's kind of, gathering the men, and we're going to have a little discussion. She says tonight you will be choosing 2 women to go forward with, and they would also have the choice to say whether they want to stay or they want to leave. But don't you worry, because you will also have the translation devices to keep until the end of your journeys. So the translation apps are now playing a role. The men descend the stairs, and it's time to start getting rid of some of these people. Dylan's going to talk to Sarah first, and he tells her, we've had a connection, so many different levels. He says she's fun, and you keep me guessing, which yes, but he does say my connections with others are deep. And if we had more time, we could have gotten there too. So he ain't picking her. She's actually very surprised. She's shocked, and she says she doesn't. He kept saying to her, like, I have feelings for you, but like, I don't think we're not gonna go anywhere. And she doesn't believe him, which I definitely understand her point here. She says, if you had feelings, then I wouldn't be leaving. And she tells him, like, you're good with your words, but with actions, not so much. And in the moment, you can see that she's like, she feels hurt. You can see she's very emotional. So, yeah. Then we have Tripp talking to a lady without the goddamn translation apps. What is wrong with this man? But you know what? It's fine. He tells her he wants her to stay, and of course she says yes, and it's basically it. Then we have Kahlil, and he's talking to Jennifer, and she tells him, I'm shaking. Whatever. He tells her, I enjoyed our night last night, you sicko. And on the other time that I want, that we, sorry, I think he said that based on all the other times that they've had together, that it felt real. So with that said, will you continue this journey with me? And of course she says yes. So there's another one there. There we go. We have one woman now for Kahlil. Let's continue. And at this point, it's like, well, who else is there? Well, we'll see in a minute. Next, we have Dylan. He's talking to Yam, and she tells him, I think you're going to be sending me home. And he tells her, we definitely took a weird path. We started with sex when we hadn't even really talked much. And he's like, we've been drawn to each other, a little bit over this time, but I do think that you are one of the women that I want to continue with. And she's speechless. I'm speechless. You're speechless. But again, at the same time, it's like, well, what else was he going to do? He can't send Yam home. He had sex with her. Like, anyway. But obviously she is choosing to stay. So there's that. Next, we have Kahlil, and he's talking to Heidi. This is a lot. She says that he had sex with Jennifer, and she says, I don't want to tell my parents I like that kind of guy. And he tells her that he felt like, I think because he said he felt like a connection for the first time they saw each other. But she looks away from him. She can't even look at him. And she looks like she wants to just cry. And she actually gets up as he's kind of talking or trying to get her attention. And she walks away. And eventually he's actually running away. But he gets up and he goes after her. And he's like, listen, I want to tell you that I want you to stay. And he hugs her, but she still just looks like she wants to run. And I don't blame her. I understand her wanting to run. But they do sit, and he says, we got these apps, so let's talk. Let's just figure this out. And she just thought that she would be going home. That ultimately nothing would change. Because, well, there's Jennifer. And he apologizes and he asks, would you stay? And she says nothing at first. And he says, do you really think we don't have a chance to overcome this? And she shook her head no. And he's shocked. And he's like, really? And again, she shook her head no. And I'm like, oh, she's leaving. But he gets down on his knees and he says, you really feel that way? And she says, like, no, like she doesn't think they can fix anything. And he says, I can't fix what I did, but I want to keep trying. I want to know the real you. Is that okay? And she says okay, pretty fucking reluctantly, actually. But she says okay. And she shakes her head yes to trying. And I just don't know how this is going to turn out. But let's continue. So we have his two. We have Jennifer. We have Heidi. And you're thinking, well, who else is there? We'll get to it. Dylan is not going to go talk to Tulai, and he tells her, I want you to, continue on with me. And she says, oh, did Nan go bye-bye? And he tells her, so yeah, Yam is gonna be staying. Okay. And Tulai, her in the moment, says, typical man in Molly fashion. And says that, of course, that he has a connection due to a brief sexual moment with her. Shots fired. Anyways. She tells him, like, no one understands your connection with Yam. And he tells her, I get it, but I want to focus on our connection. This is actually the way to go. And he's like, with that said, I want you to stay. But and I think she says, like, yeah, I'll stay, but I also don't want you fucking Yam again. And he tells her, I don't want you worrying about anything outside of our relationship. And Dylan says, I get that, she doesn't want me fucking Yam, but how do I explore this connection? If I can't, because after all, I'm a man. Fuck you. Gross. But he will ultimately say he won't sleep with Yam, but in the next episode. And then we find out why Kahlil's like, he only has 2 women. Actually, Kahlil tells the Korean girl, whose name I can't remember now, you got to go, because we don't have a connection. So there's that. And Dylan talks to Juliana and says, you also gotta go. And Juliana actually really handled this rejection really well. Out of everybody, she handled it the best. But yeah, all the women are now gone, and that's basically it. Like, this was a pretty quick episode, honestly, in terms of coverage. But Dylan is actually crying in the kitchen, and Kahlil comes to talk to him, and he's like, am I making the right choice? Am I doing things correctly here? And he is, in particular, he's talking about Sarah, because he's like, she called me out on my shit, in a sense. Did I make the right choice? I guess we'll see if he did. But that is it for what episode was this? 10. Episode 10. That's it for episode 10. But we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we will jump in with episode 11. And I am back. So let's do episode 11. I think it's called Time for Romanza. So, right off the top, it looks like none of the women talk to Yam or Jennifer. Dylan says he feels like he can't talk to either women without the other getting upset with him, in particular Tulai. But that's fine, because here comes Sangita with some good news. The couples are going to be doing overnight dates. So obviously Tripp and Lady are going to be on the trip together, and they will be on the second one as well. And then we will have Dylan with July first and Kahlil with Heidi first. So that means Yam and Jennifer will be in the next episode. So we won't have much of them, thank God. But of course, Jennifer is being a complete bitch about this. When she hears Heidi's first, she's like, I hope he gets lots of sleep so that he'll have all of his energy for my date tomorrow. Well, anyway. So Yam is mad that Tulai gets the date because she's never had a date with him, right? And she's just like, I really want this date. But I'm like, girl, you went ass backwards with this guy. I'm gonna have so much heat towards Yam. You just wait. But I'm just like, you went ass backwards. Clearly, he has a stronger connection with Chulai, and that bothers the fuck out of you because you know he does deep fucking down. And yeah, I understand that you haven't had a date with him, but you had his dick in you, girl. Like, calm the fuck down. You are gonna get a date. Just because Chulai is first doesn't mean anything. You are also getting a fucking date. So sit down, shut the fuck up, and wait your fucking turn. There's that. So we're heading on to the date. We're supposed to be going to this like secluded area in the jungle. Not for me. No, thank you. They each have their own kind of little shack, which I didn't catch at first, but they do have their own little shack. So they'll have their privacy. July wish that she actually could have gotten second. So she actually wishes she did, only because, which I kind of disagreed with this logic, but at the same time, I mean, I get it, but I just didn't agree with it. She wanted to go second because she wanted to know how she should act on her date, depending on how he acts with Yam on their date. So basically, this is code for if he fucks her, then I'll know how to go accordingly. Because I think maybe she wanted to have sex with him. I'm not sure. Maybe she was ready to do that. I'm not 100% sure, but she's obviously questioning whether or not she should, because if he has sex with Yam, then I'm gonna feel like shit if I did have sex with him as well. And, I just need to know how, but you can't, like, okay, dude, we've talked in like, do I agree with the fact that Dylan had sex with Yam? No, for multiple reasons. And the main one actually being, y'all didn't even fucking know each other and you just somehow slipped into this. Like, I don't even, oops, my dick slipped into your vagina. Like, I just don't understand. Like, it was more about that for me than everything else. But, like, I also don't agree with July kind of not doing what she feels is naturally to her, and that is not having sex with him, fine. But if you feel that naturally, like you want to express yourself in that way, then go for it. You can't shame Yam for that in particular. I can shame Yam on a lot of things. Um, and honestly, I can shame Yam when it comes to the sex aspect, thinking that she has a better connection with him because of it. I can shame you for that because that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous thinking, but it's not going to shame her necessarily for having sex with him just in general. Anyway, so Kahlil and Heidi go to like this kind of like lounge bed that hangs off of the hut thing, and I'm just like, the fuck, absolutely, because you just never know. One snap of that thing and you're down. I would be nervous too. And I like heights, but that would make me really nervous. Um, so, and he is not about it either. Or I think it was her that wasn't about it. Um, Heidi is still really confused about her feelings for him. She can't stop thinking about him sleeping with Jennifer. But she wrote him a letter. And she tells him in this letter that I want to talk to you about what I am afraid of. You choose Jennifer. I don't know if I can beat the connection you've built with her after having sex, which is understandable and that is fair. It's not like Dylan and Yam, who had absolutely no fucking connection before they had sex. They started kind of eyeing each other and this and that, and kind of, they had to kiss on the beach or whatever. But that was literally that day. All of that was that same day. It was that night that they had sex. Everything happened in literally a day. It's not the same thing. With Kahlil, his first date was Jennifer. And although it went to shits, they had this initial attraction to each other, this initial connection to each other. And when that didn't seem to work is kind of when he went to Heidi. And although him and Heidi have had the longest connection, technically, his first was Jennifer. So it's very different because it's like, how do I beat the fact that you had this first connection with her? And even though it went to shits, this kind of thing started building back up again. And, we've talked about that in like 2. And now you've had sex with her. Like, how do I beat that? And it's true. And I think we can all kind of understand that, when you have that somewhat, even if it's surface level emotional connection, and then you have the physical on top of it, it's kind of, how do I beat that? When poor thing, with her culture, is just not able to get there with him, and now doesn't feel comfortable getting there with him based on his now developed physical connection to Jennifer. So it's, I don't know. She goes on to say that it's hard for her to feel normal. I don't know if I can love you. That is very telling. I don't know if I can love a man who had sex with another girl. Now, I don't know what she's saying here because I don't know a man that hasn't had sex with another girl, or who I've loved deeply who hasn't had sex with another girl. I mean, so I don't know if she just means in this particular moment because of the experiment, or she means in general, because I feel like even in Japanese culture, you're not going to find a Japanese man who hasn't had sex with someone else. So yeah, it was weird, but I think I understand what she's trying to say here is the fact in this experiment, you've had sex with somebody, and I don't know if I can love you after that. Like, yeah, I get, that I understand. She says, if I show my true self, I'm afraid you will still pick Jennifer. So, that is her fear. So, and that's understandable. It's some people are just not capable of being completely 100% vulnerable. I don't think I would be able to do it. So even risking, like, you may not pick me at the end of this. I just don't know if I could do it. And I totally get her. I love her. So everybody's going to be going to see a fortune teller. Kahlil and ID are first, and the fortune teller tells them, "Don't be afraid of love. She has all of her heart devoted to you, but you are missing something." This is so, because again, I watched the last episode. I already at this point, as I'm recording this, I know how this goes. And my God, this fortune teller was on something, let me tell you. But yeah, she feels insecure, the fortune teller says. You need to do ritual bath. I think that's what I wrote. Yeah, ritual bath. So they stand up, and she then blows smoke at him and says, "There, it's all gone now." She also blows smoke down his pants as well, I guess to cleanse the Jennifer off of his dick. Sorry guys for that. Sorry, I'm so sorry. But yeah, she also does that. She's like, all of the witchcraft is now gone. Great. Perfect. Next is Tripp and Lady. And she also blows smoke at them. Lady feels weird about all of this because she is Catholic, and that is very true with Catholicism. We don't, well, I can't say we, because I don't I don't subscribe. But you don't do this type of thing. You don't do the fortune teller thing. You don't do meditation. You don't do whatever. The things that is quote unquote taking away from your God, the God, Jesus, which obviously, like, I may not be, I don't consider myself a Catholic. I believe in Jesus, but I like the fortune teller aspect of things, especially I mean, that's why I said, like, she's on something because my God, she's good. I, I don't, I don't not believe in certain things. Like, I believe in mediums. I believe in fortune tellers to an extent. Um, there's certain things that are out of my wheelhouse, like with Ashley, with the tarot and everything. It's out of my wheelhouse. But at the same time, it's like, I'm also really curious about those things that I will not judge it. I'm kind of taking it in because I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But I've done meditation. I've I've done that. Um, I don't see an issue with something that is going to calm you, relax you, and all of that. That's going to help with that. But again, with Catholicism, it's like, well, just pray. Praying will rid it everything in your life. And I don't believe in that at all. Prayer is one form of something that you can do, absolutely, but it shouldn't be the only thing you rely on. That's what I believe in as human beings, is just, but she says it's weird for her because of that. Um, she then tells Tripp, this is the fortune teller, that, yeah, close your eyes. And she like puts vodka, I think it was vodka, in her mouth and then spits it on him. It's fucking great. She's like, there, you're clean. And I'm like, are you sure? Because you just put not only the vodka, but your saliva in his face. I don't know if he's clean. You know he went and got a shower after this. My God. But she said, now sit. But she tells lady, he loves you. Don't down him. And she takes um the ring that they bought on their first date and says, this is marriage. This means marriage. Then for Tripp, she says something about crossroads and put your path, but your path will come through. Love her. Again, I've watched the last episode and I'm telling you, whoa, she's really good. Let's continue. Last person, the last couple. Dylan and July. And she says, be careful with betrayal. Ooh. There is a natural, I can't read my handwriting, something about energy. She pulls a tarot, I think it was tarot card, and says, look, it's something about a short white woman will try to do witchcraft against you. She's like, don't like take part in that. Don't entertain it. It will not suit you. You will, or you kind of like in this beautiful relationship that you have with July. I guess July says that kind of makes her think, Yam is that person or whatever. This short white woman who's trying to get in between them. He's trying to do witchcraft, which is really interesting because it's like, wait a minute. Isn't Tulai the short white woman who's been doing witchcraft? But I'm just saying, it's really funny. Because I'm like, I think she's talking about Tulai. No, not Yam. Because I don't see Yam as a short white woman. She's Latina, and I don't know how short she is, but she's not white, she's Latina. So I'm just like, wait, what? It's very interesting. It was a very interesting thing because I'm like, I think that's Tulai. But anyways, so yeah, that's basically it. We're done here. Now they're going to be doing dinner for everyone. Kahlil says that he hates everything that's on his plate, like everything. And she tells him, I don't tell my my secrets, I guess, or everything about her. She doesn't tell her parents everything. But she loves how she was raised. She wouldn't change that. Kahlil gets that because it seems like it's kind of similar to his relationship with his father. And then they kiss. And after she says, like, I feel like I'm going to die. Whoa, I mean, personally, I feel like, I don't know, because even Khalil's reaction, we'll get to it in a minute. When she said this, I'm like, if someone said that about me when I kissed them, like, I don't know. I don't know about that. You know what I mean? But anyway, um, but she says, like, I don't know, like, I guess she loved it or something. But anyway, he says, it was one of the more awkward kisses that he's had. And this was in the kind of in the moment after the fact. And he was also really giggly too, because he's like, that was fucking weird, was kind of his thing. And I'm like, again, if like that's how you feel about kissing somebody on both ends, like there's nothing. There's nothing here. As much as we want that, but anyway. He feels though that it did help them progress, but still not where he would want them to be. And that's also very telling. Now we see Tripp and Lady, and they kind of talk about their parents kind of connecting on that front because his mom had cancer, her mom had cancer, so they're connecting on that. And he tells her for the first time here actually that his mom had cancer. I thought he told her before, but maybe that's he told us and not her. And he says he normally doesn't feel comfortable talking about this, but he feels comfortable with her, and I think obviously for pretty obvious reasons. But he says, let's get some levity. And, because this is a tough conversation, right? So let's get some levity. And to help us, smile, he's going to recite this really weird poem that was meant to be funny and cute. And again, I can't even recite the fuck shit that he said, but it was like, I don't even know. It was the weirdest thing, but she doesn't really appreciate this poem at all. She's like, this was a moment. This was an emotional moment because, again, she's talking about her mother having cancer. And then you took this opportunity to go boopity bop. I think that's one of the things he said with boopity bop. And she's not appreciative of that. And she's like, this was this fake poem. It was dumb. She didn't like it. I think she wanted like a real poem. And, she's like, he hurt my feelings. And he tells her that, he has an odd sense of humor. It's not everyone's cup of tea. And he says that he was just hoping, or she was just hoping that he would kind of change the subject by being, by hugging her or spoiling her or like whatever. Like that's kind of what she was kind of hoping for. And he tells her that, I will not change who I am. I am a kind of person who does fuck shit. So I am not going to change. Um, he's like, I did not mean to hurt you. And I don't believe he meant to hurt her. That wasn't his intention. Um, is, but he's not gonna change being who he is. And he says, like, if this is going to keep offending you in the future, speak now or forever hold your peace. And she says, well, I hope that if, we feel things need to be changed about the other, then she's not just saying, like, you need to change and I'm fine. Like, she's trying to say, if we both need to change, that we can do that and move on. And he tells her, I will not apologize for who I am, but I will apologize for hurting you. And I mean, she doesn't say like, okay, I'm good with that, but she does say like, I understand. But based on how this ends, this night ends, I think they're fine. So Dylan and Tulai, we're seeing them dinner now. And he says, tell me about your best friends. And she said, or your best friend. And she said, she's great, you know. She says, like, what about your best friend? And he says, like, his best friend, he's like, he has a core group of best friends or whatever, friends. But he says his best friend, he considers that to be his brother. And he says, like, his brother is currently in the army and, they don't see each other a lot, but that is who he considers his best friend. And they kind of start talking about, like, relationships. And she says she's been in 3 relationships, and he agrees. He says him too. Of course, he's 21, so how many relationships have y'all been in by the time you were 21? A few. But they talk about long distance and kind of what that would look like. And she tells him, sex is important to her, for sure. Like, she's not like this nun who doesn't want to have sex. Of course she does, but she's like, it is important. Obviously, it's important to any relationship, but she says it's important for her with someone that is, she's serious about, that she wants to be with. And she says, like, once they're together, the sex will be nonstop. Don't get that twisted. And she says, when it comes to you and Yam, I need you to promise you will not have sex with Yam on your date. Whoop, there it is. I mean, good for her. She knows. She knows. This is a woman who knows I got the power. And she fucking knows, like, I have the power to tell this fucking man what he should and shouldn't do. And that's how you know this girl has a leg up on Yam. She has a whole ass, like, just skyscraper ahead of her when it comes to this relationship. It's crazy. That's the thing. Women who are in relationships with men, when you have the power. And let me tell you, I have the power in my relationship, even if he wants to pretend that he does, that I don't, but I do. And what I say goes. What I want goes. He will do anything to ensure my happiness within reason, obviously. And that's how it should be, honestly. And that's how you know, like, we all know Dylan's picking 2i at this point. Come on. Wait, really? And that's how you know he's like, this girl has the power, and if I fuck this shit up, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose her, and I don't want to lose her. So he understands, and he's like, I like our connection, and then he says, I also have one with Yam, but I will not have sex with her. He does admit, though, if she did not ask for this, he probably would have had sex with Yam again. We'll see how it goes on this date, but let's continue. Now the couples are coming together for a very quick little thing to do a cacao type of experience. Apparently, cacao is an aphrodisiac, and it's like they kind of treat cacao as like a medicine. So, apparently it helps to open up your heart chakra. So, Heidi is kind of cuddling up with Kahlil, but she kind of does look awkward at one point, but she is still touching him, which is great. It kind of resembles, but kind of Abba doing this kind of resembles tantric yoga a little bit. But yeah, now everyone is going to be going to bed. It looks like the running theme after this cacao experience that all these women want to jump these men's bones. So yeah, and Tulai feels that she is definitely on the way to falling in love with Dylan. We'll see. And again, only one of these couples actually have sex. And we'll find out who that is. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we will jump in with episode 12. and I am back. So we're jumping in with episode 12, titled El said, Ella said. So he said, she said. So Tripp and Lady are the ones who had deep intimacy. They were shooting stars and the whole bit, it was so romantic. Y'all, they had sex. So apparently also a storm rolled through, which, I mean, when you have sex, when there's a thunderstorm and it's raining outside, I mean, hello. It's an experience. So yeah, apparently a storm rolled through, knocked out the power, and they couldn't charge their translation devices, but they're fine because they don't need the translation devices to have great communication with each other, so it's fine. It's not like Tripp stopped talking like a caveman, so it's fine. Kahlil and Heidi talked all night, apparently, but they did not have sex. They had some passionate kisses, but no sex. And Heidi feels that she should have had sex with him. Like, she feels like that should have happened. But she also kind of says, I think I feel that way because he had sex with Jennifer. And I shouldn't have to have sex with him in order to be in the same position with him as Jennifer is. Thank God that she came to that realization, because do not have sex with a man just because you're trying to get ahead of somebody else. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to win, and then you're going to get heartbroken because of it. Don't, just like Chantel says, your cookie is powerful. Don't give it away to everybody. So July and Dylan also did not have sex. Like I said, only one couple did, and I already told you who that was. There was a lot of cuddling, though, and laughing, and they just had a great time together. And she wants him to tell Yam, you know what, I feel so sick today. I think it was like a cow. And I'm going to have to bail out on our date. But he laughs it off, and obviously he will be going on that date. But Dylan says that he does want to focus on building an emotional connection with Yam, since they got the physical down already. But this is also the same guy who the previous night literally said, if Tulai did not tell me to not have sex with Yam, I would have had sex with Yam. So anyways, so we are at the second date now, second rounds of the date. Of course, Tripp and Lady are on the date again together, so they're there, but we are meeting up with Yam and Jennifer. So we're going to be going dancing. We're going to be dancing the merengue. And the merengue looks so fun. Anyway, everyone has fun. But Jennifer does say that she does want to be able to open up with him more. Because again, they haven't really had much of an opportunity to do that before. Which is, it's just interesting. Because I don't know if I wrote this part down, but there was at one point that Jennifer actually got emotional talking about her connection to him and how she feels about him. And I'm like, oh shit, is she for real falling in love with him? I was a little shocked, but anyways. And then for Yam, she also wants to tell Dylan that she has a son, but she's afraid that he will walk away after she does, which is definitely understandable that you are afraid that he might walk away from you once you tell him. But my girl, you have to tell him. And if he decides to walk away because you are a mother, then fuck him and move on and find someone who is man enough to handle the fact that you are a mother. Because this guy is not it. He is 20 fucking 1 years old. Because on the other hand, he's 21 years old. Of course he's walking away. He's still the kid his fucking self. Like, of course. So, I mean, again, like I said, this is the time I'm going to be going in on Yam. Just buckle up. So we are kind of at this house, this beautiful house mansion that's sitting on the top of a hill. I love it. I mean, I'm a little terrified of houses on a hill. I don't live on a hill, not that kind of hill, but it's beautiful. It was more like a mountain, not a mountain, but like, yeah, it's a hill, big hill. It's a really nice house. definitely an upgrade from what they were doing the night before. Like, you had freaking everybody in a freaking jungle, and then we do, oh, here are these women, they're going to be in a mansion on top of a hill. What the fuck? Anyway, um, so Yam is Delulu through this whole thing, thinking that her connection with him is so much stronger than his connection with Tulai. Bitch, you just showed up with your legs wide open. Again, I'm not trying to shame her. I'm just trying to say, you came in here with just, just, just recently, literally like a day ago. Okay, a day ago, and July has had this major connection with Dylan from literally day one. Okay, night one. Okay, and you think you have a stronger connection with him because why? Because you fucked him? My girl, we all can fuck. Okay? All of us humans are capable of fucking. Fucking is easy. It's really fucking easy. Building an emotional connection with somebody is one of the hardest things that we can do because you have to let somebody in, getting to know you, being vulnerable, loving someone. As much as I love being in love with my boyfriend, it's scary to love someone and trust that that person is going to, you know, protect your heart. But you think because you fucked him, you have a better connection with him, girl? Please. Anyway, um, so Lady and Tripp are having dinner, and she tells him, or she trolls him in this moment and says, "You got another poem for me?" God, I love her in this moment. Anyway, he asks her, have you been in love before? Kind of a deep, intimate relationship. And she says yes. However, he did cheat on her. And this was about 7 years ago. So, you know, he's like, oh, well, shit, she's been hurt before. I don't know, man. I don't know. He's fine. But he is obviously thinking, I have to take things very carefully because she has been hurt before. So, yeah. Um, and then we are seeing like a storm is rolling through as we're now seeing the dinner between Kahlil and Jennifer. And she tells him in this moment, because again, she never knew this before, she says, I was engaged. And he's like, oh, really? Okay. And she's like, I almost didn't call it off in time. Like, she was maybe mere days before being a wife to this person, which makes me think, like, did this guy cheat on her? Like, something like that makes me think that maybe this asshole probably cheated on her. And yeah. So he tells her, I was so focused on my sports because he was a football player, that I have never really dated anybody. I mean, I think he's had things here and there, but he's never actually dated anyone or anyone who was really worth dating. And she was not expecting this. She wasn't expecting him to basically have never been in a relationship before. And she doesn't know how to react, but she says, I have a strong connection with him and I want to be his first and his last girlfriend. And then she reads this poem to him when, um, she feels somewhat surface level, honestly. But it's also an attempt to sprinkle in some shade towards Heidi as well, which is like, this is not going to be the first time or the only time. This is the first time, but it's not the only time that she's going to be sprinkling some shade during this date towards Heidi, which is like, if you have to literally stomp on the other woman in order to get ahead, like, come on. Anyway, now we're seeing Dylan and Yam's date, and this is where I want y'all to buckle up because my God. Um, and she asks him, when's your birthday? And he's like, November. Sir, when? When? When in November? Wasn't he a Scorpio? I'm starting to remember. Didn't he tell us he was a Scorpio? That's because you're being strategic. You're being strategic. You're not telling her the date in November of which you were born, because you know she's going to be like, oh shit, he's a Scorpio. Like, really, because again, no shade on Scorpios. I'm in love with one, so it's fine. But I'm like, sir, which explains everything, because Scorpio men are incapable of keeping their dicks to themselves. Let's be fucking real. And honestly, at least with mine, please don't. But it's just, yeah, because if you're a Sagittarius, we would just say so. And again, not a Sagittarius or any better, honestly. At least November is Sagittarius, anyways. I don't have experience with December Sagittarius in that romantic sense. But with the November ones, on the romantic sense, you're not much better. But yeah. But anyway, he says November. And she's like, oh, you're almost 22. And he's like, well, does my age bother you? And because it's funny, because it's like, it clearly does. If the first thing you say in this moment is, oh, you're almost 22. Well, then that clearly bothers you. Or you're at least thinking it bothers him. And I think it's actually in this particular moment where she does tell him, I'm 29 years old. And he says, well, all my girlfriends were older than me. He said, but maybe not 8 years older than me. Like, I think like maybe 2, 3 years older, but not 8. But I mean, again, when it comes to men dating older women, I don't think it bothers them. Well, let me rephrase. I have known, including my current, a lot of men who have not dated, well, maybe dated, but maybe had definitely had sex with older women, but not necessarily date the older women. And it's like a fetish thing. It's like a thing. It's a kink. And I think like he has no issues fucking an older woman, but I don't know if he necessarily would want to date that much of an older woman. 8 years is a lot. That's a lot. Like, yeah, like me, the idea of me at 32 dating someone who's even 10 years younger than me, no, absolutely fucking not. We're two different people. We're in two different places. This is absolutely not. But that's me personally. But I mean, maybe I'll fuck a guy who's younger, but not that young. Not that young. Yeah. So she tells him that her ex was actually 31 and looks just like him. Okay. Let's go for a guy that looks just like your ex who you're no longer with. That sounds about right. And let's tell him. Let's tell him you look like my ex. That's great. Um he asks, "Are you close with your family?" Now, I'm thinking in this moment, this is a perfect opportunity for her to say, yeah, I'm really close with my family. Family is important to me, which is all things that she does say. But then this is the opportunity where you say, by the way, I'm a mom, so really and truly family is important to me. But guess what, guys? That is not what she does. She says not a shit about her son in this particular fucking moment. I will get to my rant because it's coming. I can't with her. Anyway. He also tells her that his relationship with his mom they're very close, that's very important to him too. And she says, in this moment, if I tell him about my son now, we are so close and I don't want him to pull away. So basically she's trying to say, I'm so close to being chosen in this moment, that if I tell him about my son, my whole ass son, who's 9 fucking years old, who you carried and birthed, let me not tell him about one of the most important things in my life, fundamentally the most important thing in her life. Let me not tell him about it, because then I'm going to lose. He's going to walk away from me. Bitch, let him. If that's how it turns out, then bitch, let him walk away. Because if any man can accept your kid, then they can fuck all the way off. But the fact that I feel like I don't know her enough. I'm not trying to tell her how she feels. But to me, looking out, from the outside looking in, it feels like she's not necessarily ashamed of her son, but she's ashamed of being a mother trying to date, which I know dating as a single mom is not easy. I've seen it with my mom. I've it's not easy finding men who are grown enough to take on a woman with a child. And God bless any man who is willing to do it. But if this fucking guy isn't willing to do it, then fuck you. And I'm done. And I'm so angry at her for not fucking telling him in this moment. You're running out of time. And you don't tell him. Instead, she will be telling him. Obviously, those people didn't watch the episode either. She will be telling him. But she's literally going to tell him the day before he has to make a decision. Are you like, it feels so fucking manipulative on her part. It is manipulative on her part. She's manipulating the narrative. If I tell him that I'm a mom, there's another tick on the not pick her column. Because there's my age too. I'm much older than him. I'm older than Tulai. So there's another ding on me. And I don't want that. I want to be picked. She's a pick me girl. There we go. She's a pick me girl. It's just angering. But anyways, but don't wait for, hold on guys. We got more. Then all of a sudden, she tells him, I love you. Take you. And I'm like, when I heard, because I wasn't actually looking at the TV, but I've done enough Spanish and I listened to enough Balamos that I know what te quiero means. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, did she just say what I thought she just said? And both me and my mom were like, nah. She didn't actually mean it. But he picks it up and he's like, what? And you can see visibly this man is starting to sweat fucking bullets. And he's hoping it was just a misspoken word because they're not there yet. They're nowhere near her telling him, I love you in this moment. They're nowhere near that. Just because you fucked him does not mean you love him. Okay? You can definitely say you love his dick, and that's fine. But you don't love him. You don't love him. So fucking, okay, let's continue. Because when he says, I'm hoping this was a misspoken word, y'all, she says it again. I love you. She says it again. I love you 3 fucking times in the space of a minute. This girl says, I love you. Like literally, she's like, I love you. I love you. I love you. Like, I was like, no. And I'm literally, what the fuck is happening right now? Because this is weird. And she says, through all of this, she's telling this man that she loves him. And she's continuously telling him that she loves him. But you're not going to tell him about the most important thing in your life. And that is your son. Makes sense. Sure thing. They get up and they hug and she says, I'm feeling something, while she's hugging him. And he laughs and he's like, nah, but who knows, really and truly. And he says, I have every intention on keeping my promise. But in the looks of things, when they go back to the bed, it doesn't quite look like she's going to make that very easy for him. And he says, well, we're only human, right? And he says it's going to be difficult to not. And I'm like, well, it's definitely going to be hard, that's for sure. Anyway, it's the next day now, And Kahlil and Jennifer did not have sex. Shocker. He feels, cared for and loved by Jennifer. This was kind of in that moment. I'm like, he ain't picking ID. And she asks him, though, in this moment, I'm thinking, you guys are having this really romantic date. You have this overnight date. And the first thing you want to ask him is, so which one of the 2 dates was better? The fuck? What's wrong with both of these women? Like, it's so weird. And he tells her this was a very politically correct answer. He literally says, when I am with you, it feels natural. Great answer. Meanwhile, at the house, Heidi is doing some kickboxing because she's stressed, y'all. Back of the date. Dylan and Yam are next people that we see here. They definitely got intimate, and we're going to get into how intimate that was in the next episode. But they definitely got intimate, but they did not have sex. That also surprised me because I thought for sure they were going to have sex. My God, that girl was on top of him about ready to ride his dick. Are you kidding me? I was surprised. Anyways, he feels confident that he was definitely able to keep his promise to lie. Whatever makes you sleep at night, my guy. Anyway, Dylan has created a cute little pet name for Yam that's going to carry on to the next episode, Little Yam. But we are headed back to the house. Dylan, well, as they're all kind of coming in, do we not see to lie? And Heidi just kind of also, hi guys, just there. And Yam is pissed, and I'm gonna have some choice words for her again. And Tulai does ask him, so how's date? How'd you go? Did you fuck her? And Yam is pissed, as I've said, because she's like, listen, here comes the interrogations. She's like, if this is so fucking fucked up. She says, if he is on a date with Tulai, I give him his space, or give them both their space. And when he's with me, she doesn't do the same thing. You're at the fucking house. It's a free-for-all, honey. And if you have a fucking problem with Tulai going to him, that's because you know you're not above her. And I bet she was pissed that they didn't have sex, because I think she thought, again, I will definitely get what I want from him if I have sex with him. So, anyways. Jennifer is also pissed because Heidi is, quote unquote, marking her territory. I didn't think she was really marking her territory. I just think she's like, okay, so how'd it go? And it's no different than what Jennifer did literally that morning, asking him, so which of these 2 dates was better? And the night before, also taking an opportunity to shade Heidi. So, girl, please sit down and shut up. But anyways, that is it for this episode. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we will be closing up the shit show with the finale episode. And I am back. So let's finish up the final episode of Love in Translation, and that is episode 13, Ja or 9. So let's get into it. The first thing that I need to say here is, what the fuck is Tripp doing with his little exercise? Did you see him? Like, he had like this, I guess it was like a towel of some sort on the weight that was pressed against his head, and then he was doing upward motions. It was the weirdest thing I have ever seen. But anyways, Heidi is feeling very confused. She feels that there is more distance now between her and Kahlil after his day with Jennifer. She's still kind of wondering, like, is he still interested in me? She talks to Lady after about how she's kind of feeling and, kind of everything I just said. And Lady just hugs her. There's nothing more you can do but just hug her. Then we see Dylan and Yam kind of laying on the couch. And he says he feels awkward, kind of spending this time with Yam on the couch or somewhere else in the house. There's Tulai, and I'm thinking, okay. I mean, what can you do about that? But okay. But then my question was to him after the fact was, okay, so then why are you then literally making out with Yam out in the open when Tulai could just easily walk in and see that? It's just, I don't know. I don't think he's making out with either woman out in the open like that. He says he feels a deeper physical connection with Yam now than he does Tulai, because now they've kind of established the emotional connection. So it was kind of at this point that I started thinking, okay, I think he's picking Yam. Because now that he's kind of established that the emotional connection, when the physical was already kind of there to begin with, he hasn't quite established that physical connection with Tulai. You know what's partially his fault? Because I think if he didn't have sex with Yam, I think things would have been very different between him and Tulai. Maybe not necessarily sex, but I think like she wouldn't be so hesitant on having a physical connection with him. So anyway, then we see Sangeeta is coming, and she's telling everybody that this is it. Don't get scared now. I'm kidding. I love Home Alone. But then she's saying this is it. This is kind of, the time where you're going to make a decision, and tomorrow, following day, they will be making that decision. But guess what? There's a catch. It's not only up to the men. Because you know what? This is not a patriarchal society. Women get to choose too. And that is exactly what's going to be happening. The women are also going to be deciding whether or not they also want to continue with whoever. So that is what's going to be happening. So Tulai we see is in Dylan's room, and she's like, so, well, how did it go? She's basically just trying to find out, did you or did you not fuck Yam during your date? And this is going to be very important for a little later for those who didn't watch the episode, but he tells her he kept his promise, but, he didn't have sex with her. But he says, I want to tell you, it's not that I don't like you, but I'm also into her. What the fuck is happening right now? Because that's kind of established for me in my mind. He's picking Yam. Because the thing is, I'm like, okay, you could have just said whatever. But for someone to come to you and say, I like you, but that means I like you, but I'm not picking you. Which I'll have some thoughts at the end, obviously. But I'm just like, what the actual fuck is happening here? But let's get into it. Let's keep going. She tells him that this scares her, which is totally understandable. Then we see and Dylan is in her room, and he says that she says that she needs to talk to him, and she tells him, so I have something I tell you is going to be a hard pill for you to swallow, and you might want to distance yourself from me, and I would totally understand it, but I do need to tell you. I'm going to have thoughts for this too. Of course I am. But I have a son. And all we kind of hear is, what? So he asks the questions that you need to ask. And he's like, okay, how old is your son? And she says he's 8. And she says that her and his father broke up when he was 2 months old. He didn't expect this. He has never dated a woman with a child. No shit, because he's 20 fucking 1. He looks absolutely terrified and is in the moment when he's kind of talking. She tells him now that I told you. I'm assuming you don't want to be with me. And he says, you could have had 4 kids. It wouldn't change anything. He says, I'm good with kids. He says in the moment, but I just have to figure out if I want to deal with this. Because it's a lot. But now it's the next day. The ladies are having breakfast together. This lady, kind of just because this is easy enough anyways. So she feels like she found the perfect guy for her, and Tripp. But in terms of marriage, it's kind of a big deal. She doesn't want to marry anybody without them meeting her family. So it's she's not necessarily saying marriage yet. For Jennifer, she says before Jennifer, lady also says that the distance scares her. That's gonna come into play in a little bit. Jennifer says getting married right now, it's too soon. But she is happy with him. Then Heidi says that Kahlil is a great guy. Really smart and he's nice. And exactly what I was looking for. But I closed myself off once I knew guys were having sex in the house. It's not easy for her to even let someone touch her that she doesn't know or who she doesn't have a relationship with, which is fair. I feel before any of that can happen, you have to have a certain connection. And she says that Brazil and Japan have 2 completely, almost opposite cultures, which again is true. But I was kind of thinking in this moment, okay, don't make it about Japan and Brazil. But everything else that she said is her experience, her choices, her decisions, but not at all shaming Jennifer in particular or any other culture outside of Japan that maybe is a little more loosey-goosey with the sex. I didn't feel like it was a shame, her shaming anybody. And Jennifer says, this is extremely sexist and it hurts me and my culture. Okay. Before I even go any further, number 1, this is not the definition of sexist. Someone shaming you or women in general for having sexual desires in general in this particular case would be considered sexist. Now, that doesn't have to come from just men. It can come from women too. But that is what's considered sexist. What Heidi said, it was not sexist. Second thing, her then saying that Heidi's, sorry if you can hear my notepad in the background, it's falling off of me. Sorry, Jennifer saying that what Heidi is saying is hurting her and her culture. Ma'am, are you really trying to say to me right now that a part of Brazilian culture is just donging around and finding out later? That's not a cultural thing. It's a choice that we either all make or don't make, but that's a choice. Don't bring your Brazilian culture into it because it's not relevant, first of all. Now, if you're going to say it hurts you, that's valid, I guess, but not in the terms of sexist. However, if you're this sensitive to an opinion that Heidi has about the fact that the guy that she was really into, based on things that Kahlil was saying to her on their first date. So it's really, honestly, Heidi's experience, not about Jennifer. But if you're going to get butthurt over an opinion that she has based on her experience, then that's a you problem. There's clearly something in you that you realize, oh damn, because I think more than anything, I'm going to have thoughts and feelings at the end here, of course, but I feel like Jennifer, and I think we all feel this way based on the memes and stuff that I've seen on Twitter, or the tweets, I should say, I've seen on Twitter, that I have turned to memes. Um, but I think if we can all collectively, I think, agree here that Jennifer had sex with Kahlil when she did and how she did because she knew she was well behind Heidi at that time. So what can I do? Use my body. Because what did I say? What have I now been kind of saying throughout this? Thank you, Chantel from Single Life. Ain't nothing stronger than your cookie. And that is why she is in the position now that she is in. Because of that. And there's no shame in that. I mean, hell, I've done it. There's no shame in using what God-given gifts that we have. There's nothing wrong with it. But don't sit here and act holier than thou about it just because Heidi has her opinions based on her experience. She's not doing it to hurt you. So those are my thoughts and my feelings right off the bat. And Jennifer continues saying, I don't like being belittled. She never belittled her for having sex with him. If anything, I think Heidi puts it on Kahlil more so than anything than Jennifer. I think the issues that Heidi has with Jennifer happened long before that anyways. It had to do with how Jennifer was treating Heidi in the house. It had nothing to do with the sex though, because she was having issues with Jennifer before they had sex. It has nothing to do with that. I think she puts it on Kahlil. She says, I didn't, this is gross. She says, I did it because I wanted to. Okay, fine. And it was very good. Okay. Okay. On one hand, it's not gross because if it was good, who cares? On the other hand, you're saying this to Heidi knowing it's going to hurt her. And that's what's gross. Fuck her, honestly. She says, but that doesn't make me less of a woman. In general, no. If you decide you want to have sex with somebody, that doesn't make you less of a woman. It doesn't. Or already, not even so much about being a woman, but more so being this less of a person, less of a human. But I guess in this case, yeah, less of a woman because in a sexist place where this is not sexist, but in a sexist place, in a sexist conversation, then it would be like, well, you're not ladylike enough because you just have sex. But this is not what this is. But anyways, she says, and of course, this is my notes. Of course, we kind of see Yam as kind of just there shaking her head and agreeing with what Jennifer is saying. The differences, though, and I think I've said this before, the differences between Yam and Jennifer having sex with their respective men is Jennifer and Kahlil kind of did have this initial connection. They did go on a date. It didn't go good. And they figured, okay, that's it. Right. And then from that, she kind of came out the woodwork in his words. And then that's where they landed. It's a little different than Yam and Dylan, who, again, literally that day, started eyeing each other and kissing on the beach and whatever. He didn't really pay much attention to Yam before that. And then literally within 12 hours, they're having sex. It's totally a different situation. Yam should not be sitting there because I, again, don't want to shame Yam for having sex with anybody and these circumstances. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it's not a decision that I would make. And especially it's not a decision I would make at 29. It's not so much about being a mom, but so much the age. It's just like, we should be doing so much better than just doing the things that we did in our early 20s. Because that's shit I did in my early 20s. You want to hope you'll make better decisions. And if you can't control yourself, then you control yourself. But, whatever. So, yeah. Heidi says, I am not discriminating against sex. I think it's a normal thing for humans to do. We're animals. Animals like to have sex. So, there it is. But she continues on by saying, because because you two had sex, I thought if I had sex with him, I could get closer to him. But I realized it was stupid and wrong to think that way. And again, I think that is understandable. That is what she's trying to say. I think we're women, we've all been there. We think if we say fuck all to our morals and our decisions and whatever, that if I do this to please somebody, that I will get the upper, like, on another person or whatever. It never works. And it wouldn't have worked, honestly. But anyway, then July says, Dylan did things that I don't think are okay. She's kind of piggybacking off of Heidi here. And she said, that night made no sense to me because it happened out of nowhere. Yeah, I agreed. It did happen out of nowhere. I've been saying it. She's like, I told him that if he has sex with Yam again, then I'm gone. And of course, she's saying this in front of Yam. And she said, it's very simple. And it would have been very simple. Then she explains, and I'm talking Yam. Oh, sorry, not Yam. Tulai. She says that he explained to me that he did not have sex with her again. Then Yam says, I think we have different ideas on what sexual relation means. She says that after the date, we did absolutely everything else. Hold on to that. Everything else. And she says, and now I know I want him. I know I want to be with him. And I know he feels the same for me. She says in the moment that I'm curious what Dylan thinks sex is because we did everything else. It just didn't end like it did last time, but to me, we had sex. And she says, though, because I think she wanted to, and I think she tried to, and he probably told her no or whatever, because she says, I asked him if he didn't want to have sex because Tulai told him not to, and he told me no. So finding out now that that's the reason we didn't have sex brings me conflicts. And then she tells Tulai, I created good moments with him so that he would keep turning to me. And in the words of Tulai, in this moment, she says, disgusting. And I agree with her. So here's the thing. Sex in a general sense doesn't just mean intercourse. It could mean vaginal or anal penetration, we should say. But that could be oral. That could be heavy petting. That could be an array of different things. It doesn't just mean vaginal or, again, anal penetration. But we're mincing here. Yeah, you damn well fucking know what Tulai means here. Tulai meant vaginal/anal penetration. She didn't mean everything else, because that shit don't matter to her probably as much. It's about the act of having sex that meant something to her. I don't think she's an idiot and thinks that he wouldn't have done things. I think she was more focused on that part of it. And you fucking know it. Because it's funny how she says, she says, we didn't, sorry, what was the word I said already? She's like, we did everything else, which lends me to believe, she meant penetration. Because you wouldn't have said everything else. Because that makes me think you know exactly what she meant by saying sex. And I think you know exactly what Dylan meant too by saying we didn't have sex. He's not going to divulge all this other information. And it was obvious that something happened based on the way he worded it to us, the viewer, and to Tulai. He says, I can confidently say that I did not break my promise, that we did not have sex. And he meant penetration. But he damn well knows that other things happened, but he's not going to divulge that to her. You know this. This was your opportunity to stick it to Talai again by saying, I may not have fucked him, but I did X, Y, and Z with him. And it is disgusting. All for this. She's a 29-year-old woman fighting for her child. Like, seriously, it's actually pathetic. And it's just, no. I just had such issue with her in this. I don't like Yam. I just don't. I did initially, but when all this kind of came out, I lost just all like I had towards her as time went on, because I was with her and I understood her with the awkwardness after they had sex. I didn't shame her for that, but I lost respect after all of that. Kind of, I guess, from the point of when he made the decision to now, I just lost all respect for her. So I guess in the last couple of episodes, I just lost respect. She's disgusting. I don't like her. Anyway. Tulai says that she's pissed and she feels deceived. She says it makes no sense to continue a relationship with him. If this is true, she is strong enough to walk away. 'Cause I'm strong enough to live without you. And she will. And I believe her. Well, let's continue. So the men are getting ready to go to their respective remote areas to go through this decision process. Tripp and Lady are first because, well, of course, and this will be quick. He says he feels so many things, and she tells him, I knew it was you. I'm not going to go through everything he said. She's like, I knew it was you, and all that. And he says, I have a question for you. And he gets up, and he gets down on a knee, because we're sitting before that, and says, will you ... put this shoe on? Or put your foot into the shoe. And he says, I'm trying to show you something that symbolizes the perfect fit. Just like your foot fits perfectly in the shoe, you and I were the perfect fit. Okay. It's, I get it. It's cute. It's sweet, whatever. But, sir, can you please lay off the Disney movies? Because this is fucking ridiculous. He thinks he's Prince Charming and she's Cinderella. Except, you idiot, Prince Charming did not put the shoe on Cinderella. It was who was he? The guy with the eyeglass thing? Who was he? I don't remember who he was, but I'm picturing him in my head. It wasn't fucking Prince Charming. I'm just saying. But anyways, he says that I love you and will you be my girlfriend? And she tells him, I have never been so sure about anyone the way I am with you. And she says, I love you in English. And that is a yes for them. We will get back to where are they now in a little bit. Kahlil and Heidi are next. And she looks absolutely adorable. She's beautiful. And she tells him, I am feeling refreshed. I'm feeling good. And he tells her all the right stuff that, he needs to tell her. But then she tells him, if I never came to this house, I never would have found myself. However, there's just something off. And she stands up and she tells him, I choose me. This was like this was a Daisy moment in Love and Translation universe. This was perfect. And he says, fuck. And he tells her, it sucks, but I will forever cherish this. And she says, okay. And they hug. And she says, I didn't like Japanese culture before I came here. But then I realized I am so Japanese. And she says, if he was the right one for me, I think I would have opened up more to him. And that is very true. And we will get a Where is Heidi Now in a little bit. Dylan and Yam are next. And he tells her about how he feels about them. He says, your age doesn't matter to me. And he's like, you're the most perfect woman I've ever met. In the villa, we're great. But the real life is not the villa. And you need a man to be a father figure to your child. But I don't think I am ready for that. And that is so understandable. And I think the right decision. And honestly, she should have made that decision for herself. She didn't need Dylan to tell her. He's 20 fucking 1 years old. He's closer to age. No, he's not. But he's not ready. Like, you'd have to literally think to yourself, at 21, she was becoming a mom. But you have to think from another person's perspective who isn't in that same situation as she was. Were you really ready to be a mom at 21? You probably weren't. So why in the fuck's name do you think he's ready to take on a woman with a child? I'm not saying it's right, but at 21 years old, let him not have to take that on. And you should have bowed the fuck out, personally. Someone older, someone closer to her age or older, I expect more out of a man who should be able to take on a woman with a child. But 21, I don't expect that. And she should not have expected it. She should have bowed the fuck out, personally. That's just me. Anyway, he tells her, I don't want to let you go. And she says, we already did. Can I go now? And that's it. And I think, like I said, I think he would have picked her if it weren't for the fact that she had a child. Which is, I think, honestly, her decision to tell him the night before was a very manipulative move, in my honest opinion. Come from me if you disagree, but I think it was a very manipulative move. But anyway, we'll get a Where is she now in a little bit. See how I just don't have the excitement in that. I just don't like her. Anyway, now we're back with Kahlil and Jennifer. And he says this sweet kind of poem that he is saying in Portuguese, which is not great. And she calls him a gringo. But anyways, then he asks her, will you be my girlfriend? And she is very happy. And he says, this is Jennifer. And she is my first girlfriend. And hopefully my last. And she says, it's Kahlil and he's my boyfriend. And hopefully he'll be my last boyfriend. So it was kind of actually this moment that I kind of started to think her emotion felt very real. I didn't think it was an emotion of a sense of, oh, I won. But I think it was like an emotion of, I think she actually likes him. Because she was getting emotional. I think she actually likes this guy. It wasn't this moment that I thought that. And we'll get a where are they now in a little bit, but let's continue. Then July and Dylan are last. And he's telling her all the good things, but then she says, one moment, I got a question. And she asks again, did you fuck Yam? Because she kind of made it seem like you did. And he says, she says, if you did, I cannot continue with you. I'm going to have my thoughts in a minute. But anyways, he tells her, we slept in the same bed, but we did not have sex. And she says, I am relieved. Then he asks her, will you be my girlfriend? And she says yes. Now, we do know from Yam they did not, because if they did, she would have said so. But I do think he isn't being 100% truthful. I do wonder if he kind of said to her, okay, we may not have had penetrative sex, but we did have deep intimacy and whatever that means. I do wonder if he told her how she would have taken that, but I guess we don't know. We'll, if she's watching the show, we're going to figure that out, but maybe. But that's basically it. We're going to get a Where Are They Now very soon too. But yeah. Then we get some on-screen text, which is our Where Are They Now? So Yam returned to Mexico and is not dating anyone. For now, she's happy to focus on her son. Heidi is also still single, and she recently moved to my neck of the woods, to Toronto, Canada. And she did that to work on her English. And I feel like I know where she actually could be. She could actually be kind of, there's actually an English school in Toronto, downtown Toronto, near University in Dundas, for those who live in the area. And I can imagine she's probably going over there. But if I were to run into Heidi in the wild, oh my gosh, like I love her. Anyway, good for her. Welcome. Kahlil and Jennifer are still together. Whoa. He says, he has visited her in Brazil, and they are making plans for her to come to the US. They still communicate through translation apps, though. So neither one. Portuguese is a very hard language to learn. There's no doubt about it. But that's, hopefully they're putting some effort into that so they can, learn each other's languages. Dylan and Tubai remain a happy couple as well. They visit each other often and have met one another's families. Serious between them. Dylan would like for Tubai to move to Miami permanently, and he did mention that on the show. Last but not least, Tripp and Lady apparently struggled being together long distance after the show, and she broke up with him 3 weeks later. But after being apart, though, after some time, they got back in touch, and she recently went to visit him in the US and met his family, so they are back together. But that is it. That is the show, and my thoughts and my feelings on Love in Translation. So this was actually, it was a dumb show. It was a dumb, stupid, just dumb show, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about it. I hope you guys enjoy the coverage of it. I would love to see another season of this, because we're getting MILF Manor again, so you never know. I think there should be more elimination process with the show, though, because you have these women that just kind of stick around, and it's like there's no connection with them. So I would like to see more of an elimination process with the show, maybe in a future season, so that you don't have you kind of feel like there's going to be an end at some point. I'm surprised that there was 13 episodes with the first season. I don't think there needs to be any more than 13 seasons. 13 episodes. So, there's that part too. But that's a wrap on Love in Translation. And to leave room for future episodes that are coming very soon. Future shows coming back very soon. But that is it on Love in Translation. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.